program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning everybody. It's a grey dawn here in the northeast corner of South Africa. That is a beautiful male lion. My name is James Hendry and this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Everybody, there is a male lion. Now, he's sitting at the Djuma Dam, of course, and there were some buffalo distress calls. That was from Lucy and Chris Rowe. You heard them from the dam cam. So he has quite possibly just come from a kill site. Byron is that side of the dam. We can't go around there right now because the rain has, well, it's sort of scuffed up the wall and we don't want to destroy it further. So Byron and his good friend Brian, try and say that early in the morning, they're going to be looking for the lion kill there. David and I, good morning, David.
Good morning, James.
There we are. David and I are going to go down towards where Karula was yesterday. She was on the southern boundary, and with any luck, we'll spend some time with her, our favourite 12-year-old female leopard, the queen of Djuma, and her two little cubs, Shongile and Hosana. So that will be the plan this morning. We are, of course, completely live. If you've not been with us before, you're most welcome, especially. And if you're wondering who this person is waffling away at you, remember you are on a live safari, which means you can talk to us, #Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV. And for the next 3 hours, you will be in our company, I hope. And it'll be lovely to hear from you, especially if you are, in fact, a new viewer. Because, of course, the viewers, the most important part of what we do, it would be no fun at all talking sort of blindly into this camera, knowing that there was no one on the other end. Okay, we're going to head south now. Byron's going to move into the sighting and try and get a look at the lion. And we'll press on and see what else we can see down in the south. Before we do that, though, I'm just going to let you listen. He's moved away from the water, but we can hear him calling. There he is, everyone. Look at him listening, and look how fat his belly is. He's definitely eaten. He's got gore on his shoulder. He's got gore on the front of his mane. So the buffalo that was distress calling last night, I suspect a fairly substantial proportion of it is in that fat lion belly. Brilliant. Now he's heading, I think, straight towards where Byron is. So let's head away from here. And Byron will hopefully rejoin with the lion shortly. Okay. It's a good way to start the morning. It's always nice to be spoken to by a lion at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yes, everybody, that is correct. No matter where you are in the world, it's still 5 o'clock in the morning here. That is very early indeed. David, what time did you wake up today?
4 o'clock.
You woke up at 4 o'clock. I mean, that's almost night time, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Before we head on to Karula, let's see if we can find what Mr. and Mrs. Wahlbergs are doing. And I mean, I imagine by now they must be pretty close to having a chick. I remember we watched them mating probably about 2 months ago now. And I think they lay the eggs a couple of days after that. And then I think it's a 28-day incubation period. Right, there. Just, Dave, if you wouldn't mind getting into the middle of the tree there. Yeah. I think there we go. You can just see a feather sticking out. Not the best picture of a Wahlberg's eagle, but in a little while we'll have little Wahlberg's chicks. Let's head straight across to Byron and find out what he's going to be doing with that lion this morning.
Can you see where it is? Morning everybody, my name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Brian and the Thumb, and we are in search of lions and the rest of the pride. Sorry, I think I had an issue with my earpiece there. It should be working now. So we were very fortunate. We got to find that male lion early this morning. As we drove out of camp, he was roaring, and he walked down towards the Djuma Dam. We've come around the other side. I know James got to see him earlier, which is really, really great, and he called for us again. But I see tracks of the rest of the pride along this road, so I'm going to see if I can find the pride. We did get reports from some viewers that they said they heard buffalo alarm calls or distress calls, so we're going to have a look. We'll look around and see. Hopefully we get to find the rest of the pride. Maybe they've hunted something again. So I'm just going to check very carefully here, everyone. Yeah, I can see the lion tracks. They're heading straight down this road. We're on Central Road at the moment. So let's scan very, very carefully. We had a bit of rain last night, which was nice, softened the soil a little bit. Not much, just a bit of a light drizzle. But we had such a fantastic afternoon yesterday, afternoon and evening. It really was great. Okay, there are lots of impala here. So let's see. Alright, I see some tracks heading in this direction, everyone. Looks like something had run over here. Just scan and look carefully. So this is the tricky part, where you're starting to scan, look around, and make sure you head in the right direction when you're looking for animals, especially these lions and their tracks. And it's a bit easier when you've got somebody on the front of the vehicle, a tracker, that can see the tracks a lot better than you can. See, I've unfortunately got to drive off the road just to try and have a good look. Otherwise I may miss it on the left hand side. Let's just drive up here a little bit and scan around. I mean, these lions have been wandering down into the drainage line. X-Ranger is saying our cat streak is day 57. That's incredible. Absolutely amazing for big cats. 57 days of cats. Of big cats. That's very, very lucky. Wow. I don't see any more tracks here. So I wonder if they hadn't crossed down into the drainage line. See, the thing is, you've got to check these areas very carefully, and because these animals can move all over the place. Especially if they're running and they're chasing something, they could run down into the drainage line. And I always try to check a little bit further than I think, or a little bit further than I think they would be, because you don't want to drive around and miss something where you were literally maybe 100 meters from them and you decide to turn around. So I always just go a little bit further, just to make sure I don't miss any tracks or tracks coming out again. No, there's definitely no fresh lion tracks, everyone. So I'm just going to turn around quickly And I think let's check on this other side of the drainage line. So we're going to head back around that way. But this is exciting. This is very exciting because we've got an idea that there was possibly some alarm calls or distress calls. Some of our viewers heard it probably from the dam cam, which is great, and they think it came from this area. But the sound in the bush is always very tricky to identify or pinpoint where that sound is coming from. So we're having a good look around. They could also have missed it. Maybe they tried to hunt and missed, but if it's a proper distress call, they usually have got the buffalo. But we know that when those buffalo do distress call, the rest of the herd will often turn around, come back and help the buffalo that is in danger or that is in trouble. So let us see. Leilani would like to know, do I have a favorite type of sighting in the morning? Predator or prey? Leilani, to tell you the truth, sorry, I just want to double check here quickly. Leilani, there is nothing better than a male lion calling and that roar in the morning. It is just incredible. That has to be by far my favorite. It is amazing. Such a loud sound. It's just incredible. It goes right through you. Alright, we're going to have a look around this area quickly. James has got a large bird of prey that he'd like to show you.
It's not a very large bird of prey, everyone. In fact, I quite like the Wahlberg's eagle because, well, it's a little bit like me, you know. It's not the biggest of the predators, but it's got a certain je ne sais quoi, if you like. And you can see there that this is a completely chocolate Wahlberg. And so what I call this pair, and they always come back to this nest, is the Mr. and Mrs. Chocolate Wahlberg. And back up at the top there, those two pale form ones are the ones in the first nest that we saw. And this chap was just calling quite nicely, so let's just see if he or she will do it again. If you see them sitting next to each other, the female is slightly bigger than the male. So that's the way you'd tell, but from here, now I couldn't tell whether that was a female or a male. Except you see, David, there is that little bit of scruffy feather there on the left,
yes,
indicating that it's probably the male. Hello, Wolfgang. You're in Sweden and you ask a fairly astounding question. You say, do I think that a bird could ever be afraid of heights? Well, there are two answers to that. Firstly, yes, I think that an ostrich, a kiwi, and a number of other flightless birds, were you to toss them out of a plane on a mini parachute, or in the case of an ostrich, a human-sized parachute, I imagine they'd be absolutely terrified out of their wits. The second part of that is to say that if a bird that was flying was afraid of heights, it wouldn't be a very effective bird and would probably pass on into the next life rather sooner than many of the other birds here. So I'm assuming you ask that question slightly tongue-in-cheek. I'd say a flightless bird, yes, terrified of heights. I'd say any bird that wanted to fly and survive. Were it to be afraid of heights, it would have to get over it very quickly, or unfortunately it just wouldn't eat. Nice one there for the beginning of the morning. Thank you, Wolfgang. Right, let's move on from Mr. and Mrs. Chocolate W. I think that's why that one's shouting. It probably is the male shouting about the fact that his wife has deserted him at this so early in the morning. Him to look after the kids, which he thinks is very unfair. The kids at this stage probably just two little eggs. One egg, sorry, they lay one egg. Very seldom two. Right, we're approaching Twin Dams now, and we had some rain last night, I'm told. I, unfortunately, did not wake at all, but Byron came bustling into my room early this morning to tell me that there had been rain. I, of course, sent him out as fast as he came in, because in the morning I like to have my coffee in silence, and you know, Byron is very exuberant in the morning. One needs to awaken to him slowly. The point of that story, everyone, I've forgotten what it was. The point of that story is to say that there's now water, standing water in puddles all over the place, which means that very few animals, unless it gets hot, which it isn't yet, but it might get hot today. Unless it gets hot, animals are going to be drinking from those puddles, much more so than they will be from dams like twin dams. Okay, we're approaching the southern boundary. The southern boundary, of course, for those of you who are new viewers, is a boundary that we can't cross, but animals are free to come and go as they please, clearly. And we hope that Karula has not taken that freedom too much to heart. There's an elephant over there, and that she will have remained here. There is an elephant quite close to where she was, also facing south. We'll just pop down through the dip here, and with any luck, we will have an elephant sighting. Yesterday we had a wonderful time, Brian and I. We came down through this dip and we heard the guinea fowl alarm calling, and in sort of textbook fashion we drove up, and bang, there was Karula and the two cubs, and they headed towards the kill to which we are going to go now. Karula, for those of you who are confused about who this is, a 12-year-old female leopard, our favourite. David, there is a woolly-necked stork, if you can believe it. There's so much action, it's difficult to know where to look. You see his woolly neck, David. That's why he's called a woolly-necked stork. That was very nicely filmed, David, for this early in the morning, yes. I see you've put your jacket on. David didn't want to put his jacket on, everybody. He was showing us how tough he is this morning. It is 21 degrees Celsius, apparently, 69 Fahrenheit. It feels a little chillier than that, though. I, of course, being not tough like David, put mine on immediately. We'll just nip round the corner here. The elephant is standing in the middle of the road, not too far from where Karula was. Ah. Hello, Leilani. What a nice thing to hear. You say you've been watching for 2 weeks now, and you're going to start your bird list today, and Mr. Wahlberg, Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg are going to be your first birds. I think that's fantastic. This elephant is creating a problem. He has pushed over a marula tree, except I don't know that an elephant that size could have pushed over a marula tree. I wonder if it didn't get blown over. No, he would definitely have pushed it over. Slowly move up towards him. I say him because he seems to be on his own and is therefore most likely to be a bull. Leilani, you must also put, of course, woolly-necked stork as bird number 2. Now, there's something very interesting about this here. I'm just going to park where I hope we can get a decent view of him. I'm sorry, David, it's not the best view in the world. We'll just let him get used to us, and then I'm sure he'll let us get close. Here we are. Alright, now what we don't want to do, everybody, is give him a fright. So we'll just talk very soothingly, like this. Now this, interestingly, is a marula tree. It's quite big, for I would have thought for an elephant this size to have pushed over, but I'm not sure what else could have happened. And what is interesting is that it's a marula tree. Now they will browse on marula leaves, which is exactly what he's doing. But I have a theory that elephants know which are male marula trees and which are female marula trees, and they don't push the females over, and they also take less bark from the females because they know that those are the ones that produce their fruit. And if I look around here, you can tell if you're exceptionally clever. You can tell from looking at the edges of the branches whether it's a male or female tree. I have yet to manage to do that. But you can tell if it's male or female by looking around the base to see if there are any pips from the fruit. I don't see any right now, so I'm going to, at this stage, use this example to corroborate my theory and say that this is a male tree that he's pushed over. This tree, of course, is not going to survive this encounter with the elephant. It wasn't very clever of you, elephant. There are many other things to eat. And this, of course, one of the huge reasons I think that this area was once much more open than it is. Elephants push a lot of trees over. Is that a wonderful shot? That's fantastic, David. Look at that. David, fast as anything this morning, artistic. Yeah, really on the money today. So what I was saying is that they push over a lot of trees, of course, but for many years, up until about 1996, their numbers were severely controlled in the Kruger Park, not on a scientific basis. And I think you'll find that many, many moons ago, before the advent of the white man in this area and his guns, I think you will find that there were many more elephants than there are now. And I think that would have meant that the landscape was a lot more open. Now, Karula is not far from here, only probably, well, this is if she's still here, probably about 200 meters or 100 meters. In fact, I can see the tree. I'm just going to look, the tree under which she was yesterday. No, I don't see her yet. Right, we're now going to try and get around this fellow. I just want to get to the leopard before the rest of the game drives become too enthusiastic about getting mobile. So let's see if we can sneak round here without causing him too much consternation. He's being particularly confiding with us, which is very nice of him. I think we're going to make a bit of a noise here. We might just have to wait till he moves off. Alright, while we try and do this, get to the leopard, let's head to Byron and find out how that lion tracking is going.
The lion tracking's not going well just yet, James. I've got their tracks here, but I can't see which direction they've gone. Just trying to have a look. Just want to see that male has moved out of the dam. I can hear him. Sounds like he's coming closer towards us. Let's just see. If we're lucky, he might take us. There he is. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we've got this male at least. So let's stick. Hang on. Did I just see something there? Sometimes your eyes play tricks on you. Some impala through the bush. That's what those are over there. I think let's sit with this male for a bit because he's been calling, and it would be wonderful to get you to hear that roar. And if we're lucky, maybe he takes us to the rest of the pride. You know, they do tend to know where each other are at times. Right there, Brian, is that good? Oh, look at that. Afshin. John, Afshin. This is great. This is really, really fantastic. We've got some guests who are keen photographers here at the moment on the vehicle. So they're getting some great pictures. But look at him. Oh, that is really, really beautiful. And I'm hoping that he calls again for us. And that all that communicating, all that roaring is basically to find out, for one, it's a territorial call. And I think this male is also using it to try and locate the rest of the pride. Find out where the Nkuhumas have gone. Where are they? Have they got food? That's probably what this male is interested in. See how he's looking around and he's listening. There's some impala that have been alarm calling, the ones that we saw. And they've stopped now. There you can just hear the snorts, I think, every now and then. Hang on, everybody, here he comes. If he does walk past us, I'm just going to stop talking, and I think he is going to. Oh, look at that. That was fantastic. Really, really close to us, right past us. Very exciting. Let's stay with him and see where he goes. He's heading to that area where I had those tracks of the rest of the pride. So maybe his tracking skills are a little bit better than mine. And he can find out where they've gone, because I cannot seem to find a direction where those lions have moved off to. I can see the tracks of the cubs, the whole pride. But I'm just not sure which way they actually went. So they're possibly in this area somewhere. Let's have a look. I'm hoping that he decides to call again for us. It's a lovely morning, nice and cool. Nice to be able to follow a male like this. Isn't this incredible? Looks almost like he's very wet around his chin and mouth and that. Oh dear, I'm in everybody's shot now. Don't want to get in the way of the other vehicle and their pictures. With photography, everyone, listen. I thought he was going to call there. So when we are following animals like this, when we're following lions and we've got other vehicles and keen photographers, always have to be mindful not just of where you position the vehicle for your guests, but also for the other guests. You don't want to get a vehicle in the shot directly behind the lion. That's not ideal, so we are very, very careful where we do position our vehicles, keeping into consideration that the people want to photograph these animals. Let's see where he's going. He's now going down into this dense thicket, and I think the Nkuhuma Pride were around here yesterday. I know they were struggling to find them at one stage. Taylor managed to find them, and I think they were in this area, and it was a bit tricky to get through there. But they were around, so perhaps they came out, tried to hunt and chase something back down in towards this drainage line. I see a little bit of water up ahead, a little pan, probably just filled up from all that rain that we had the other day, or the last 2 days we've had some rain. Yeah, looks like a little mud wallow, a little pan of water. Let's see, there were some impala around here earlier as I drove past. No sign of lions. He's scent marking as he's walking, this male. Scent marking. And he's drinking again, everyone. Isn't that incredible? I mean, he just had a drink, I know, at the dam where James was. I'm just going to move quickly. Let's try and get a shot of his face, everyone. Just give me 1 second, just before we cross over to James. I just want to show you this male leopard from this side quickly. I mean, this male lion from this side. Ah, there we go. Look at that, everyone. That is really, really beautiful. To watch him lapping up the water. And when these animals drink, they drink a lot. The reason for that is, look at that tongue. If you look closely, see it curls backwards. And that's how they lap up the water. So with that tongue curling backwards, they actually don't lap up a lot of water. So when they do drink, they'll spend a lot of time with their heads down, drinking, lapping the water up. And then after a while, they'll eventually move off. Okay, so we're going to try to stick with this male. James sounds like he's found the leopards.
No, that is the male. There it is, everybody. We have found little Hosanna. The others, I think, are on a termite mound just behind here. But he is playing with his food again. He likes to play with his food, this chap. And you can see those very, very sharp little claws on what was a duiker. The duiker is obviously very dead at this stage and almost finished being consumed. Look at that! You wouldn't want to get hold of him, I tell you what. This is just fantastic. Let me move my head. Sorry, everybody, I can't really move the car. We did struggle to get away from where we were before. I got us a little bit stuck. But we're out now. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm just going to quickly call in that we found these leopards. Stations relocated Karula and Cubs static, same place as last night in the drainage. Yeah, I've done my duty. Now he is playing, but all of this play behavior, of course, hugely important because it teaches him how to move a carcass. It'll teach him the lessons he needs to know when he eventually comes to hoisting his own kills. He is a fantastic fellow. What's behind us, David? Our elephant friend. Well, that is exciting. There's our elephant, everybody. Same chap. I'm sure he can smell death here, you see. That's why he's looking a little upset. He was completely unfazed with us hacking around, trying to get around his tree that he'd pushed over. But now he knows that there's a predator here. And the predator is now lying on his food. He's just spotted the elephant. Now the elephant's coming slowly towards us. See how he looked towards his mother? You can't see his mum, but I can see his mum now. She's lying on a termite mound, really not far from here. Elephants do not like predators, especially lions. I think they probably have a sort of gentle understanding with leopards. Excuse me. But leopards have absolutely no doubt as to who's in charge, nor do lions. Isn't that fantastic? Gee whiz, what a morning we've had. Lions, leopards, elephants, leopards and elephants in the same sighting. Now he's settling down to eating a little bit. This is just truly spectacular, isn't it? I'm just keeping an eye on that elephant while you watch the leopard. I think there's another elephant in there as well. Anyway, everything's beautifully at peace, and while we sit here with the big game, of course, there are birds calling all over. Starry Night, with your poetic name, I'm not surprised in the slightest by your comment where you say each time you see these leopards, their beauty takes your breath away again. Well, I find the same kind of thing, really. Now, David, I'm going to ask you, if you... There were two little birds, everybody. Anyway, we'll scrap them for now. Let's just look at the leopard for now. The 3-3 male is what he'll be known as eventually. Well, there we go. That's interesting. Nice comment from James. Thank you very much. You say you saw Shongile trying to hoist the kill yesterday, and you've interpreted that as sort of showing signs of independence. I'm not sure it's a sign of independence. It's certainly a sign of maturity, which of course will eventually lead to independence. But she was doing the same thing again 2 days ago, wasn't she, when she was picking up that little impala fetus, and she was walking along with it exactly as she was just kind of dragging it around exactly as she will have to when she's sorry, I was a little bit arrested by the elephant making a noise behind us. Exactly as she will as an adult. So yes, I would agree. It certainly shows that she's maturing. And she doesn't play with her food like he does. And much like with human beings, of course, she will go independent before he will. She's getting on with the serious business of living. He's just enjoying the comforts of home. If you are a sensitive viewer, perhaps you find this kind of thing a little bit gruesome. I do apologize for it, but I'm afraid that is what happens at these kills. Suffice to say that Dyker doesn't feel anything anymore, does it, David? No. It hasn't felt anything for about 24 hours now. I know it can be a bit gruesome at times. And you might just be able to hear him chewing. Oh, Justin, now you're asking me to choose, and you say which of these leopard cubs is my favourite. I'm going to have to say little Hosana, of course. He's quite playful. He's a little male leopard, of course. I'm a little male human, and so we have that in common, I suppose. I don't know. He's got a lovely character. They both do, though. They're both very confiding, and it's not always like this, you know. I have been with leopard litters, with two cubs, and they grow up with entirely different personalities. Quarantine and Djuma being an excellent example of one completely relaxed, the other basically a little bit nasty. And the same as I always remember the first two leopard cubs I ever spent time with, also two males, and born to her name at the time was the Clara female of Ngala, and her two young males behaved in an entirely different fashion. One, at one stage, he was so nasty, he jumped up onto my car, onto the tracker seat, which was a fairly terrifying experience. The other was just like Quarantine, just completely relaxed, took no notice of us whatsoever. So it's quite nice that these two, Shongile and Hosana, are completely relaxed around us, and they don't seem to be showing any signs of irritation. He's actually started to get a little bit curious, and 2 days ago he came to within a foot of the vehicle, with his mother watching, and she gave us a little hiss as if to say, "Don't you move while my boy is so close to you." Thank you for that, Justin. He's in excellent condition. This is the third kill in 3 days that Karula made. She lost, I think, both of the others to hyenas. But the hyenas hadn't bothered to steal this from her. I think this was in a tree, sort of, for a little while, until Shrongile dropped it, I believe. Now we'll try and go and have a look at the others on the termite mound shortly, but we'll probably disturb him. Dana, you say you know this has been asked before. Well, Dana, you know I ask many questions many times over as my memory starts, well, it's always been fairly poor. So don't worry about it. You say, when will they become independent? We don't know for sure, but we know that the male, probably not much before 18 months. In fact, could be after that. The female, the earliest recorded time is 8 months. She's now 9 months old as of yesterday. And so it could be any time from now. But I would say she'll probably hang around for about a year and then slowly start moving away. Now, it's interesting. This is actually the first pair that I've watched. Yeah, where one's a male and one's a female. It's the first opportunity I've had to watch them go all the way to independence, which hopefully we will do here. So it'll be interesting to know if when she disperses, whether he does the same because she has, or whether he spends much more time with his mum, and I suspect it's going to be the latter. Now, when I say when she disperses, she's not, of course, going to disappear. She will just slowly start spending less and less time with Karula. She'll wander a bit further afield. Her mum will stop being that affectionate towards her, and then she'll start to make her own kills, and it'll all be close by, and slowly she'll kind of wedge herself into a territory either north or south or east or west of Karula's, and she'll push up against Tandi to the south and east. She'll push up against Shadow to the south and west. She's already been squeezed. And to the north, she'll push up against Shiluva. And so she'll wedge herself in there, and the territories will move around. I suspect quite strongly that she's going to take the northern part of Djuma, because I think her mum has moved quite a lot into the south. Oh, wow, look at him, hey? His eyes have got more yellow, you know. They started off very slightly blue, and then they went very pale quickly. Right, Byron has managed to re-find the male lion. I'm not sure about those buffaloes, so let's go and find out if he has eaten and where what he has eaten is.
So, James, it does look like this male has fed, and he's just moved a little bit away from this pan, but he's still very close. He just went and lay down and is resting a little bit now. I'm not too sure. I'm trying to listen. I don't hear any other lions in the area at the moment, but I do think if we're lucky, he's going to take us to the rest of the pride. It looks like he has fed a little bit. Remember, just before I left you, just now. Oh, listen, everybody, he might be called. Listen. Listen, here we go. Fantastic. That was incredible, everyone. Really, really wonderful. Now that male again is roaring to find out where the rest of the pride is, but no one seems to be answering him. But that roar, and you could hear it back home, is just absolutely incredible. But it's hard to describe the feeling when you are this close to a lion when he's roaring. I mean, I could feel the vibrations a little bit in the vehicle. You can feel that deep, deep sound resonating through here. It is just absolutely amazing, and it's by far my favorite sound in the bush. To be able to sit this close to these magnificent beasts and hear them call and roar, and you see the effort that they put into it. Their whole body tenses when they are roaring. It's just incredible. It's hard to actually describe. I wonder where. So as I was saying, it looked like there was a bit of reddish coloration around this male's chin, or under his chin. So I'm not sure if he did feed on something last night. I think so. It did look like it. Maybe there was a bit of blood left around there, but the thing is, judging by where he came from and where he's heading to, I mean, he came from the quarantine clearings, which are in the opposite direction to this. And then he came all the way through, and it sounded like he'd been looking for these lions because he'd been calling. And he went to Djuma Dam, drank, and now he's come up to this side, into this area. And this is, I think, where the lions were yesterday. They were in this drainage line somewhere. Taylor found them. So I'm sure if we're lucky, he will eventually lead us to the rest of the pride. Michael, you say even sitting at home, every time you hear this, it sends chills down your spine. It does. And I must be honest. For me, it's a very emotional sound, and I don't know why. What's the best way to describe it? It just hits home with me every time I hear a male lion roar or lions roaring. And to get this close, I'll never forget the first time I really heard it. It brought tears to my eyes. It's just such an incredible sound, and to be able to experience it is amazing. So I know exactly what you mean, Michael, and what you're saying. And he really is a beautiful male. I've been fortunate enough to see a coalition of 4 big males just in the south of where we are now. So they kind of losing a bit of their territory now. They're called the Majingalan males. And these males were territorial and covered a huge territory within the central part of the Sabi Sands. And we got to see these Majingalan males, all 4 males, lying in a line about a meter apart from each other. They were all facing us, and we must have been about 30 meters away from them, just to give them a bit of space. And these lions roared together, facing us. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever heard. All 4 big males roaring at the same time. Look at that, just cleaning himself. We're going to sit with him a little bit longer and just see if he is able to find the rest of the lions. James has got the queen, I believe.
Yes, we do have the queen, everybody, and we're whispering because Her Majesty is asleep and we don't want to wake her up. I am, of course, talking nonsense. Her Majesty doesn't mind if I talk normally. She's very full of duiker, and she's got her nose resting up against a termite mound for a pillow, which is not very royal, of course. There you can see very clearly the wow spot pattern on her forehead. And you can also see the 4 spots on the right-hand side there that she's got. Her left, our right, just above her whiskers. 3 in a row, 1 small one up above. Almost exactly the opposite of what Shongile has on her right-hand side, our left. That is gorgeous, David. It's gorgeous. Now, Hosanna is eating just to the behind her, just into the drainage line there. Now, we use those spot patterns, of course, to identify leopards. That's kind of the convention. You use those ones just above the whisker pattern, above the whisker line, but you don't have to. You can use any of the markings, and many of our viewers, of course, have found some elephants shouting there. Many of our viewers have found different spot patterns to identify leopards extremely accurately, and one of which, of course, on Karula's is that wow that is written on her forehead. If you look carefully, you can see wow is written there. So Ellie's just over there. Nicole, I'm going to get to your question now, and that's Shongile with Karula. There's some elephants over there. Nicole, you want to know if leopards ever have identical spot patterns? Anyway, they do. Well, not identical, but they often have the same number. So, for example, what's a good example? Well, Hosanna is going to be a 3-3 male. I'm just trying to think of another 3-3 male. I can't think of another one, but they're around. But the arrangement of the spots is almost always different, Nicole. And then, of course, they live in totally different. Territories normally, and very nicely, Kirsten just reminded me that Quarantine is a 3-3 male as well. So, when the two of them are adults, they will both be 3-3 males, but the arrangements of those 3 spots on either side will be slightly different, and they will be in different territories. So it really it's not difficult to identify them. And Quarantine's a case in point where the viewers have noted 2 different spot patterns on him, other than those 3 spots above his whiskers. There's the landing strip up his back. He's got a very symmetrical arrangement of spots up his back, and then also he's got a sort of pound sign on his head, which I have stared at and failed to see, but everybody I know who looks at him tries to point it out to me. So he's got a pound sign on his head, and those won't change, of course, because as we know, David, as the adage goes, what is the adage, David?
I forget.
A leopard does not change its. There we are. Well done. Dustin, what a nice question from you. You say, do these termite mounds that the cats are on provide heat? Is that why they're lying on them? They do, but only... I suppose there could be a certain amount of heat, and just above Shongile there's an open chimney out of which there must be some metabolic heat coming. I don't think the surface would be particularly warm. I think let's say it might be slightly warm, so it may be a bit of an encouragement. But there are other reasons for them to be on the termite mound, and the one is that, of course, it's a vantage point, so Karula can look around here and see if there's any trouble coming. The second is that it's free of wet grass, and cats, big cats, just like small cats, try and stay dry as much as they can. And thirdly, with all of those little chimneys and things, they allow her to remain fairly well disguised if she wants to. If she puts her head down, she can hide behind them. So I think it's much more for security that she's on the termite mound and comfort than it is because of the heat. But it's certainly not impossible that she'd be seeking out the heat. Oh, right, Byron has got the quintessential sound of the African wild.
And the lion has just roared for us again, everyone. Really so special. He stood up, he's turned, he's now facing, well, he was facing us for a second, and he's just changed directions. You see how he's looking? He's constantly looking. He wants to find this pride. So it'll be interesting to see if he does. But look at that belly, everyone. He has fed. Look at that. It's huge. He has fed, and I think also that is why he was drinking so much water this morning. Usually these cats, after they fed on a lot of meat or on a big kill, they do get quite thirsty, and the reason is there's a lot of salt in the blood, so they do get thirsty, and I think that's exactly what's happened with this male. He's just gone and laid down there, everyone. I'm just going to move a little bit. Let's just see if we can get another view of him. But he just laid down behind those trees. So as I was saying, they do drink a lot of water after they've fed on something, because they will probably be quite thirsty. So that's why it looked like he drank twice there. Can you see there, Brian? All right. Let's make sure I don't block the other vehicles. So again, I really do not know where the rest of the pride is, or where the Nkuhuma pride is. They're possibly hanging around in a drainage line somewhere. I saw the tracks coming out of this area, but I couldn't gauge an exact direction of where they went. Rob, you want to know how far this roar can be heard from. Now, Rob, a big male lion like this on clear days, and where the sound carries a little bit more, probably up to about 10 kilometers. About 10 kilometers or so, which is really far. Now, the lions could possibly hear it from even further away, but I think we are able to hear it from up to 10 kilometers. If you do hear one or two males giving a proper full roar, and on a clear morning, you can hear it for quite a distance, which is really incredible. If you think about it, that's immensely far. And that's also why occasionally it can be a bit tricky to really pinpoint where they're calling from if you do hear them on clear days. And winter, I find it very difficult. I was guiding in June, July, August, and we'd hear lions calling, and we'd hear leopard calling, and just to gauge where it was coming from was so difficult. I found it very difficult. It also helps if you do know the area a bit better. You can know where the roads cross, where the junctions are, where the animals could possibly be moving, where the water is. Might make it a bit easier to pinpoint an area. But in winter, I do find it a lot harder to pinpoint where the calls are coming from. Amanda wants to know if they get a hairball from licking themselves and cleaning themselves like this. Amanda, I would expect so. I don't know, I've never seen a lion with a hairball before, like a domestic cat, but their tongues are very, very rough, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off a lot of hair when they are cleaning themselves. So possibly. Excuse me, everyone. I just want to chat to some guests there. It's tricky to get in. It's very thick. It's in a drainage line. To be honest, photographically, it was difficult yesterday. I wouldn't rush there. Yeah, maybe go past and have a look, but it was difficult yesterday. Sure. Just giving the other vehicles some advice on the Karula sighting where James is. You know, we were there yesterday and we got to see them. We had a lovely sighting, but it was a bit difficult for vehicles to move around, and we're lucky we've got the camera that can focus on them. But for photographic safari with guests taking photos, it can sometimes be difficult. That belly is definitely full, everyone. This lion did feed on something. And Stephanie, you want to know, how do the trackers on the seats on the front of the vehicle, how are they or how do they not get bothered or charged by animals and that? So it's definitely you know what the thing is, these animals definitely see that tracker sitting on the seat. I've seen it before. They walk past, they look up at the tracker, but I do think they associate him with the vehicle. So, and the animals are still a bit nervous of the vehicles. We need to remember that. So they won't necessarily just come up and try and jump on the vehicle. However, I know most lodges, and certainly when I'm guiding especially, if we do get into sightings with predators or certain animals, we actually get the tracker to come sit in the vehicle, and he'll just join me, he'll sit next to me. And the reason for that is not necessarily a safety issue, but I do think it does make a difference when there is a tracker sitting right on the front. The animals do react to him a little bit, which we don't want. So we'll get him to sit inside, and also from a photographic point of view, if the animals are moving around and walk in front of the vehicle, or you don't want the trackers in all your shots, just like you don't want the guide in all the shots. So when I'm guiding, and I know most lodges, they try to get the tracker inside. It all depends on the area. Other lodges don't do it. I prefer to get them in, to be honest. Peter, you want to know how these animals find each other, or these lions will find each other. Would they use a combination of the sound and smell? Definitely. Peter, their sense of smell is so good that they're able to pick up on the scent of the pride very, very easily if they're in the area or when they've been around. And that's exactly how they're able to find each other. So it would be the sound for one, and it's incredible. I've seen lions roar once or twice, and the other lions that they're looking for possibly to return the call once, and they walk 2-3 kilometers to that exact point where those other lions are. They know exactly where they are once they've heard them, which is fascinating. But they will definitely use both. Their sense of smell is incredible, so they would use the sound and the smell. Let me just reposition everyone. I might be able to get a slightly better view here. The other vehicle has moved off with all the photographers on it. I think they got some really great shots. All right, let me just get another position. James is still with the Leopards. Let's see what they're up to.
Are you hearing anything? Kirsty, we've lost you if we are live. Okay, we're live. Everybody, sorry about that. We're just having a little bit of trouble with the comms, but that's okay. We've got a leopard right here. We've moved back down here because the Queen is fast asleep, as is her daughter. And young Hosanna has settled into the serious business of having his breakfast. Doesn't that look delicious, David? Everybody loves a piece of soggy duiker flesh in the morning, especially if it's got some soggy hair on it. Delicious. The grey go-away bird next to us is agreeing. That's another one of Byron's good calls, of course, the grey go-away bird. It is an excellent rendition. And also in the background, the lovely summer sound of the Diedrich's cuckoo. Hosanna doesn't think much of my Diedrich's cuckoo call. Now, Lauren, a very good question, and it's specifically good because we're going into the lambing season. You say, do I think this cub could take down a small antelope? I think that he's big enough to take down a small antelope or a baby antelope. Do I think he has the skill yet? I'm going to say no, I don't think he probably does. I'm fairly convinced that by now, between Shongile and Hosana, they've probably killed the odd bird. Certainly they would have eaten a lizard or two and the odd termite. But I think that possibly onto birds now. I think by the time, though, the lambing season comes, which is going to be in about, we're almost there, say 2 or 3 weeks, say a month or so into the lambing season, it's going to be a perfect time for these leopards to learn how to hunt small antelope. There are going to be lots and lots of baby impala around. They'll be just about at the age where they're able to start stalking and making kills. So maybe that lambing season will be a really good thing for them. But I don't think that they would have the requisite stalking skills just yet to take too many antelope. And always should also not forget that he's getting lots of nice protein from those flies, isn't he? So you can see there his 3 spots above the whiskers, and very clearly getting bigger from front to back, but they're all quite big. And I know one of Quarantine's is almost invisible, it's so small. Melinda, you're wondering about milk teeth. And we get this question quite a lot. And as far as I'm aware, and I spoke to a vet about this the other day, all mammals get milk teeth and then permanent teeth. And so, yes, he does get milk teeth. They will be long gone by now. He's now 9 months old. I think you'll find that by 4 months they will have fallen out. And between round about the weaning time, you'll probably find that they were being replaced. Or just after weaning. So maybe around sort of 4 or 5 months, he would have got his big teeth. But they don't sort of wander around like human children do. I've always been amused by human children. You know, you see this very sort of, good-looking child, and they then smile, and they've got half the teeth missing, and you don't have that sort of situation with cats or dogs. Their teeth kind of almost replace immediately. They don't have that toothless grin that the human being has. It's some time since I lost my teeth, David. Yeah, you'd think so. Mick 1011, there we go. Look at that hoisting. That's very mature of you, Hosana. We'll just watch his tail and see what he does. I don't want to disturb him, and then we'll move up around. While we do that, Mick 1011, you're interested in whether or not there are bones just littering this landscape because of all the kills we've seen. Whoops, sorry about that. Mick 1011, no, there are not bones littering the landscape. Yes, there are bones around. Of course, we find them quite often. But bones decay, and especially in summertime when it's hot and there are bacteria and there's a lot of rain, they decay relatively quickly. They also get spread around a huge amount. So, I mean, these duiker bones will be completed. I mean, the leopards will eat most of them. Then the bigger ones, you'll find that a hyena could easily come past this area fairly soon, pick that up. A hyena would eat absolutely everything on that carcass there, so there would be nothing left at all if a hyena came past here. But you would expect, for example, to find elephant bones everywhere, and you just don't, because, I mean, well, elephants go off, of course, as we know, to the elephant graveyard. They don't really. But they go onto rivers normally when they get very old, and they die there, and their bones eventually kind of get into thick bush and sometimes into the water. So we don't find a lot of elephant bones around. It's interesting. Not a huge bone site. Okay, we're going to move forward. Let's try and pop out of the drainage line here. And while we do that, let's go and find out what the lion's doing with Byron.
And this lion is doing very little at the moment, everyone. He's laid down and he looks like he's not interested in moving. He gave one more call again, trying to find the pride, but still no answers. So I'm not sure where they have gone, where they disappeared to. Could possibly be in one of these drainage lines somewhere around here. But what I'd like to know is what he fed on last night. I mean, look at that belly. Gee, it's full. Very, very full. He's breathing quite heavily too. And it's also a sign that they're full.
They're all this side now. You just try and get across here. There might, I don't think you're going to get this.
Shush, you want to know if a lion will ignore prey if they've got a full belly? No, not at all. I've seen lions feeding on a carcass. So they're busy feeding. Something's walked past and they jump up and try and hunt it. So they are so opportunistic if something had to walk past or was close by. And we've seen it with the Nkuhuma pride. They've fed on a buffalo every day just about for the last week. They even though they're full, they still hunt. The other day they had killed a buffalo not far from Djuma waterhole. Then one or two of them went down to drink. And there was a buffalo there, and they ran and they hunted and killed that one. And they finished both carcasses within 2 or 3 days, but it just shows you that even though they're full, they will still hunt. So they are very opportunistic because they don't know when the next meal is going to come. So if there's food around, they'll hunt and make sure there is some food for the pride to eat. Oh, this male looks very relaxed now. Couldn't find the rest of the pride or his brothers. And lions will often do that. So maybe the pride has got a kill somewhere, which we suspect. Maybe they've got a kill somewhere and they don't want to share. So they're keeping very quiet. So they don't have to share with this male, because if he does go in there, even though it's full, he may still want to feed a little bit. And as I've mentioned before, when these males come in and meet up with the pride again, even though those cubs are theirs, those females are still very protective. And the reason for that is these males get very aggressive when they are feeding. It's just instinct. It's, survival of the fittest. I must get some food. I must eat. And then if there's cubs around or females around, these males get aggressive, often hit them, or growl and bite each other. So at times the females are nervous when the males do enter back into the pride, and then eventually they'll calm down again. But just to make sure that there's no aggression and no danger towards the cubs. Look at those beautiful paws. Clay from Oregon, the lions and leopards do not actually get along at all. You wanted to know what the relationship is between these animals. So they do not get along. The lion is the apex predator around here, and the leopard is probably second or third down the hierarchy. And I say second or third because hyena around, at times they can be a little bit more dominant than in terms of the predator hierarchy than the leopards. Thanks for that, Brian. Getting to know the anatomy of the lion.
Embarrassed?
No.
Embarrassed?
Oh dear, Brian. So, Clay, getting back to your question, if anything, the leopards, I mean, we know the leopards will avoid lions at all costs. And the reason for that is because if a lion bumps into a leopard, and they come across one another in the bush, the lions will definitely attack the leopard and try and kill it, purely because it's another predator, it's competition, not for food. So it will possibly just try and kill it, just because it is another predator. Usually what the leopards will try to do is run away, and the leopards are very powerful and very agile. I've seen footage of leopards defending themselves against lions and managing to do so, but what they'll probably choose to do is run up into a tree. If they're up in the tree, the lions can't get them. The leopards are incredibly agile and great climbers. These lions are not as good. So the leopard, if it can get into the tree, then it would be completely safe. I can hear a cuckoo, everyone. No, I think it's a bit far. That's a bit far. I was hoping to show you another cuckoo this morning. We're going to leave this line now, drive around and see what else we can find, maybe get another sign of the rest of the pride. While I do that, James is with the leopards. Let's see what they're up to.
Right, I believe we're live, everybody. Sorry, we are struggling a little bit with our comms today from the final control. But the leopards are now fast asleep. The male, I'm afraid, we can't get to. We can see where he's shaking a bush. There, he's down there shaking a bush. There he is. So I'm afraid we can't get to him at the moment, not without disturbing the queen. And we're not alone here, of course. We had the elephants earlier. There are also some zebra making their way towards us, which we will just have a quick look at to show you that we're surrounded by wildlife. They, of course, are in no danger from the leopards. The leopards are too small to take a big zebra like that. They might think about a very small foal, but I think you'll find that adult zebras are so vicious that she'd realize that there were easier things to find out here to eat. There we are. I think often people also don't understand the size of animals here, and many of you will be familiar with horses, of course, and some of you will be familiar with the difference between a horse and a pony, and the difference is that a horse is over 14 hands high, so no, in fact at 15 hands, and you'd call one of a zebra probably just slightly smaller than horse size, so probably about 14 hands and 3, if that means anything to you. So what do they stand? They probably stand about 5 feet at the wither. Let's go back to the leopards and their sweet repose. Hello, Wendy. You're wondering about the awful day, which we know will come, when Karula shakes off this mortal coil, pops her clogs, starts pushing up daisies. You're saying, what's going to happen to her body? Well, I think it will probably lie in state for about 2 weeks, after which there will be a funeral service in the Cathedral of Hoedspruit. And then she will be laid to rest in the royal tomb of Acornhoek Abbey. I'm, of course, talking absolute nonsense now. The thing is, you're asking if we think that she will be collected and then stuffed for all to see. It is my fervent hope that Karula will remain unstuffed for the duration of her expiration, if you like. What will happen, in all seriousness, is that it's unlikely we'll find her. I have never found, if she dies of natural causes, if she just dies of old age or gets too weak to protect herself, she will normally go away to die. We've seen this with, I don't know if they'd go away to die necessarily, but you certainly see it with house cats, you see it with dogs, where they seek out privacy. and certainly the only other leopardess that I've known been around when she's shaken off this mortal coil, as it were, has been the 3-4 female of, look at this, Karula's provoking her daughter, it's so cool. And the 3-4 female down at Londolozi was 17, and she just disappeared. And so it's highly unlikely that if she dies of natural causes that we'll even find her. And I think that's such a nice way for them to just go quietly in privacy, unharassed, and they go off with dignity. So there will definitely be no stuffing of Karula's body if we do find it. She will probably just be left, which I think is that's where you want to be buried, really. The Cathedral of the Wild is the perfect tribute to the great Queen. I'd love to say that the term Cathedral of the Wild is mine, but I'm afraid it isn't. But I will use it liberally and eventually convince myself that it's my own. Michael, what a lovely opportunity for me to tell this story. Thank you for that. She's now going to have a little breakfast. Michael, you say, have I ever had guests that have been afraid of big cats? Michael, I'm reminded of a time where I was spending time with another 3-4 female, and that was the Clara female of Ngala, who I mentioned earlier. And she was, she could not have been more relaxed. She was probably even more relaxed than Karula is, if that's even possible. Oh, look at that wonderful shot there. And Michael, what... we found her one day in a drainage line, much like this, and I had 2 guests from Italy there. And I said, oh, look at the leopard. And, the leopard didn't react. It just kind of lay there in the sand. And I was waffling on about its great virtues. And, of course, being a young guide and not particularly good at my job, I didn't actually turn around to check how the guests were faring, just assuming that they would be as in awe of the sighting as I was. And eventually I turned around and I saw only one guest. And this was because Mrs., we'll call her Quattro Stagioni, for want of a better Italian surname, was lying on the ground of the Land Rover while her husband tried to comfort her. I also noticed a soft whimpering noise coming from beneath the seat, where she was convinced that the totally relaxed female leopard was going to jump up and eat her and Mr. Quattro Stagioni. Anyway, I don't think that they will come on safari again. But yes, it does happen from time to time. But it's very, you find, Michael, that guests take their cues from you. So they watch the guide very carefully. And if the guide starts to behave like he's in mortal danger, well, then they start to show fear. But otherwise, they don't worry too much. That was the most obvious example that I can think of, but there have been plenty others. Not often with whimpering, though. Winter Prism, while that childish leopard moves off, you want to know if children are allowed to come on safari. They are. I never recommend that a child comes on safari before they're sort of 10 years old, because I think the experience is kind of lost on them. And of course, if you're on drive, it's not high action all the time. There's a lot of the small stuff that is, while it's very entertaining to you and I, a lot of kids find it a little boring. So I wouldn't bring a child on safari before they're 10. And we used to have a policy that no child on game drive, unless it was a private Land Rover with the family, before they were 6 years old. Simply because they do tend, kids make a noise, and that's absolutely fine that kids make a noise, but it does make the animals react, and especially predators. Predators will react to a mewling child. They can pick that weakness up immediately, and it's quite distressing to watch an animal with a child cries on the back of a car to sit up and look for the source of this kind of the crying and the weakness, and that's a little bit disturbing. Okay, we're going to move now and see if we can get another view of the leopards. These elephants are still feeding off in the front of us there. The problem with them being on the side of this drainage line, of course, is that they go up and down. They're right back in it now. I think, given that where Ephraim's going, where's F going? I'm just going to wait to see where Ephraim goes, because there won't be space for both of us down there. We can go down the other side though. Yeah, I don't think he's going to try and get that big cruiser in there. We're very lucky in these little cars. That's the one advantage of these Land Rovers, of which there is inescapably few. Hello, Tina. You're wondering if leopards always have male and female cubs. Tina, they don't. They have both. Both, sometimes two females, sometimes two males. It's really completely 50-50 ratio. Utangena. Okay. Ephraim says you go first because we can get all the way down to the bottom. He's not going to go all the way down. Except he's not going to see anything. We're not going to go down in, everybody. We're just going to pull in here. Just going to move out the way so that Ephraim can see nicely. You're right there, David?
Yeah.
I'll try not to end us in much the same way that I thought we were going to end after the elephant. So I don't want to go down in there, everyone, because we'll be less than 2 feet from the leopard, and I think that will disturb them slightly. Here comes a little male from the side. Ngavon.
Yeah, good right.
Right. Ephraim says he can see fine. That's good. So the little family, the royal family, everybody. Prince and princess. Playing with Piltiforum africanum, or the weeping bottle, which will shortly flower and produce thousands of marvellous insects for us to look at on bushwalk. I also smell a flower, don't you, David? Or is it your cologne this morning? It's a bit feminine for you. There's some kind of really delicious smelling bloom around here. It's a bit like jasmine. Isn't that fantastic? It's really not too difficult spending sort of extended periods with these cats, is it? I'm deeply confused as to where the rest of that pride of lions went, though, I must say. So I don't think that they will be here for the whole day. And that's because I think that they will probably finish this duiker fairly soon, and then they'll head off. Now, Peter in Orlando, you've asked a question or two that could take probably a number of researchers 7 years to answer. I'll try and give you the short version of it. The first thing you want to know about is intelligence. Are they intelligent? Well, as I've said before, I mean, it depends entirely on how you define intelligence. Are they more intelligent than lions? No, not necessarily. Lions are perfectly intelligent for what lions have to do. Lions obviously are not very good at complex calculus, but then nor are leopards. So when we talk about intelligence, we often talk about basically human intelligence, or the ability to approach sort of abstract thought, if you like. And those classic tests of testing if animals can recognize themselves in mirrors and that sort of thing. Leopards do show, apparently, now I only know this from a big cat trainer who I drove once, and he trained cats for movies, and he reckoned that leopards were approaching the intelligence of dolphins. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but he reckoned that they were extremely clever. That's a fairly gruesome sight. They're obviously not squeamish. So that's what this chap said, and I have no reason to doubt what he said. They train much more easily than many of the other cats. He said lions, however, 1 in 10 you could train, the rest were just totally gormless. Now, that doesn't mean that they're gormless at all. It just means that their lifestyles are not adapted or don't have to be the same way as the leopards.